Hello everyone, Chris here with Platinum Reviews. Today we have the newest review for Granblue Fantasy Relink on PS5. Before we jump into the review though, just want to give a quick heads up. I currently have the flu, so if I'm breathing heavy or I sound a little bit weird, it's because I'm dying, so don't mind me. Let's go ahead and jump right into the review. Granblue Fantasy Relink sees you playing as the captain. When one of the crew members gets kidnapped, it is up to him or her to go and rescue them with the remaining crew. Now, the great thing about Granblue Fantasy Relink is you are not forced to play as the captain. You can play as any character on the team. You can also recruit new characters through crewmate cards, and you can decide to play as these characters as well. The story still focuses around the captain, and I believe in the story, the captain must be present in the party. So you have to have that character in your party at all times because they are an important part of the story. However, it is a really awesome thing to be able to pick one of these other characters and then play completely different than the others. The nice thing too is none of them take away from the overall experience of the story. So even if you are playing as a different character, it still makes you feel like you're still playing through the story and everything. It doesn't really make it seem weird that you're not playing as a captain. So I did like that a lot. And the story overall is good. It's not great. It's not amazing, anything like that. And I wouldn't suggest this game based on the story, but it is enjoyable. It's a nice, heartfelt, warming story that will keep you cozy by the fire. I don't know if that's a thing, but it's an okay story for what the game's worth. I will say, I feel like more emphasis was put on the end game than the actual story, which is weird because a lot of games focus more on the story and then you get some okay content for endgame, but nothing that's going to keep you wanting to come back. With Granblue Fantasy Relink, I think endgame is where the game shines, and the actual story is just there for padding for the awesome endgame. So while the story's good in itself, like I said, I feel like it's meant to have you go through endgame and play endgame versus actually playing the story. Now, where Granblue Fantasy Relink shines is the gameplay. This also goes into the end game as well, but the gameplay is fun. It is incredibly fun. The fact that there are so many different characters, and I don't know the exact number off the top of my head, but I want to say there's at least 18 characters that you can pick from, each character playing completely different. And it's just so awesome to be able to be like, well, I'm more of a character that likes to shoot enemies with guns and everything, a more ranged attack kind of player. And to see that there's two different characters that both play actually a little bit different than the other with guns. You have characters that are close range, you have DPS characters, you have magic characters. There is so many characters to choose from and they play tremendously different. On top of that, you can change your skills out as you progress down your skill tree. So as you progress down your tree, you can actually swap out skills. And these skills can completely change how your character plays. So just because my character plays one way, if you go in and play with somebody else who has the same character as mine, theirs might play the completely opposite way because they're more focused on buffs and debuffs, and I'm more of an attack kind of character. So it's really awesome to see all the different customization options you can have with your character and all the different skill trees that you can unlock. Most of the maps that you're going to be playing in are very linear, minus one or two. They are very straightforward paths that don't have too many branching options for looking for chests or different objects, which isn't too bad, but I would have liked a little bit more exploration. There is one or two chapters that has more exploration, but I felt like the areas were just kind of dull for something that was so massive where it's like, hey, you can explore now after having everything so linear and it be just a desert. I was like, okay, this could have been really cool, but instead I just got a lot of sands and a lot of reused animations with different buildings falling down, and it's the same thing over and over. I just felt like they could have done more with the wide open area after having most of the game linear. The endgame missions have you just going to a mission area, killing an enemy, and finishing the mission. There's not really, minus a handful of them that I played, not really a wide variety of ones that let you explore. Instead, it's just a tiny, tiny area where you're fighting one enemy, maybe a handful of enemies because you're defending something. You're not really exploring or anything like that in the end game stuff. Now, to touch base on characters again. Now, when I said all characters play very different from each other, that is true. The only thing that I felt like was an issue for me, the character that I chose, it felt like most of the attacks that I was having to do was just square, 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 over and over and over. I would sometimes throw in a triangle here and there, but for the most part, most of my attacks were just tapping the square button. Once I would have a skill available, I would use the button to do a skill, but for the most part, it was just hitting square. I feel like the game would have benefited from combos. So being able to do square, triangle, square, different things like that and trying to master the different abilities. Instead, it was a very simplistic combat style that, yeah, it's very fun and I loved playing it, but I just felt like I was going to break my square button from the amount of times I was having to press that so I could shoot someone. Now, before we get to the end, I want to discuss two more subjects really quick. Graphics and music. The game's beautiful. I really, really like the art style and just the game looks fantastic. I did run into a few visual glitches, which I will kind of talk about in the glitches section. But overall, the game looks beautiful and runs great. The music is fantastic. I really, really like the music in the game. Most JRPGs just have really good music, but overall, the music was fantastic in Granblue Fantasy Relink. Now to go over bugs and glitches. Don't worry, there's not a lot. It's just a handful. When playing English, the audio doesn't match the lips correctly. You'll see that they're saying the correct thing because their mouth is moving with, as if they were speaking English. However, the audio cuts off because they're done with their sentence and their mouth is still moving slightly. So I saw that quite a bit. The other two problems I ran into is during some cutscenes, not a lot during actual gameplay, but during some cutscenes, you'll see objects like pop in, and I'll do my best to try and show some of these issues on screen minus the audio. And the last issue is matchmaking. There was a lot of problems, especially at launch with matchmaking. There was just so many times I couldn't play with my friend. I'd have to completely exit the game, open it back up for us to play together, or missions that you're like, I know people are playing this. You just wouldn't be able to see anybody. I also had a few times where I fell through an object or you could see through walls, stuff like that. But overall, there was not too many bugs for me to tell you like, ooh, wait for a patch or anything like that. The game's very fluid and works really, really well. And minus those handful of issues, it is easily a game I would suggest. I really enjoyed my time with Granblue Fantasy Relink. I do plan on going for the Platinum. However, I believe the Platinum's going to take a very, very long time. So good luck to me. But it is a fun game. Each character brings something new to the table and they're very, very fun to play with. The story is good, but it feels kind of short for a JRPG. It feels like more emphasis was put into the end game than the main game. I feel like if you don't do any exploring whatsoever, you could possibly beat the story in less than 10 hours. Audio doesn't match the lips sometimes. There's the pop-in of objects during cutscenes and matchmaking issues with multiplayer, but overall, I really, really enjoyed my time with Granblue Fantasy Relink. I would give the game an 8.5 out of 10. If you have any questions about the game, let me know in the comments down below. As far as the Platinum goes, like I said, you're going to be putting a lot of time into it. I don't have the Platinum yet, so can't really go over what trophies and how to get them, everything like that. But if you do have any questions, I could try and help you out the best I can. This is Chris with Platinum Reviews. As always, keep getting those trophies, and I'll catch you on the next video.